Our message to the drug traffickers is get the hell out of our country. Your free ride is over because President Trump is back in the Oval Office. This warning marks the beginning of a new era of accountability, but the darkness that had taken root was deeper than anyone dared to imagine. It wasn't just on our borders or in the back alleys of our cities. It had penetrated the very institutions we trusted most. More than $3.1 million in student aid vanished without explanation. 62 ghost accounts appeared overnight. 14 secret transfers fed a hidden campus fund, and every document, every digital footprint, and every whispered rumor pointed to one name, Dr. Abdurak Mahmoud Warsame. What looked like small administrative errors at first eventually exposed something terrifying. Female students were being quietly routed into mentorship trips controlled by Sinaloa cartel contacts. Drug money was being pushed through university programs, and vulnerable young women were being tracked like property. This wasn't mismanagement. It was a dangerous system hiding in plain sight. Let me show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. It was a shocking campus sweep. 287 federal agents sealed university buildings after a massive $2.6 billion financial irregularity review. At 4:12 a.m., the quiet campus of Atlantic Hills University was no longer quiet. Federal vehicles rolled in without sirens, their headlights dimmed to a low glow. Agents moved with disciplined precision, their boots hitting the pavement in a steady, rhythmic march. Their target was not a dorm or a classroom. It was the office of the university president, Dr. Amina Hassan Warsame. The doors to her suite were reinforced, and the walls were soundproofed, designed to keep secrets in and the world out. Inside, investigators found 2 sealed safes, 6 passports under different identities, and 14 international banking records linked to offshore accounts that shouldn't have existed. Down a service road, a warehouse sat just outside the university property line. When agents forced the doors open, the air turned cold. They found 680 sealed crates, each marked with labels tied directly to the Sinaloa cartel. There were no faculty members there, no staff, and no sign of the president. For 5 years, more than $4.2 billion in unexplained financial flows had quietly moved through university programs, research grants, and mentorship initiatives. This was no academic misconduct. This was a system, and it had just been exposed. If you believe investigations like this must be uncovered, please comment, yes. For years, Dr. Amina Hassan Warsame was admired as a reformer. She was the smiling president of Atlantic Hills University, a woman who stood at podiums speaking at global conferences, awarding scholarships, and promoting her signature women's mentorship program. To parents, she was a guardian of opportunity. To students, she was a symbol of achievement. But federal investigators quickly learned that her public image and her private operations were worlds apart. The files recovered from her office showed that her mentorship initiative wasn't about guidance. It was a recruitment funnel. Amina kept detailed lists of over 80 young women flagged as high potential. Each name was labeled with chilling notes on their financial struggles, family issues, or academic ambitions. These were not mentorship evaluations. They were vulnerability assessments. Agents discovered travel papers for 27 leadership trips that never connected to any legitimate university partner. Instead, the destinations were private docks, offshore resorts, and unregistered marinas. At least 14 students had mysteriously withdrawn or paused their studies after participating in these trips, with no follow-up from the university. Financial audits raised even more alarms. Over 3 years, Amina authorized nearly $190 million in so-called student advancement funds. Only a tiny fraction ever reached legitimate programs. The rest moved quietly through consulting firms and international partners linked to known trafficking corridors. The deeper investigators looked, the clearer it became. Dr. Amina wasn't preparing young women for success. She was selecting them deliberately and methodically for something far more sinister. If you think vulnerable students deserve protection, please like this video and comment "Protect Students." January 3, 2026, 3 a.m. off the California coastline, 78 miles from shore, the ocean disappeared beneath a thick wall of fog. Ahead of it stood a private island, a fortress disguised as a luxury retreat. Surveillance analysts counted 12 perimeter towers, reinforced barriers, and an estimated 200 armed private security contractors guarding every approach. For years, the island had hosted exclusive leadership gatherings billed as private conferences for global investors and visiting dignitaries. But federal intelligence had finally confirmed the truth. Inside the main compound, 36 young women were being held in isolation. They had been transported there through closed-circuit travel networks tied directly to Dr. Amina Hassan Warsame's mentorship pipeline. The island operated 1 week each month, drawing in a rotation of wealthy executives and influential power brokers from Somali diaspora networks across Europe, the Middle East, and North America. Behind every invitation was secrecy. Behind every event was silence. And tonight, that silence was finally ending. More than 500 federal personnel from the FBI, DHS, DAIC, and the Coast Guard converged under a single mission priority: rescue the women. Secure every suspect. Prevent anyone from escaping. There was no media, no public announcements, and absolutely no warning. At 3:18 a.m., the fog thickened, becoming a dense, heavy blanket swallowing the horizon. Command briefings had identified 3 approach corridors, not for spectacle or force, but for total control and for the safety of the hostages inside. As the island lights blurred into the mist, a heavy tension settled across every operator on the water. They knew there would be no second chance. At 3:41 a.m., movement was spotted at the main courtyard. Island security began shifting positions, and radio chatter spiked. A convoy of luxury vehicles idled beneath the central pavilion, staging for guests scheduled to arrive later that morning. Internal logs uncovered earlier in the investigation had referenced this specific date as a priority attendance week. The window for rescue was small and closing fast. At 3:57 a.m., the first breach teams reached the outer perimeter. Floodlights swept through the fog and then vanished into the white haze. Shouts echoed across concrete walls. Panic broke out inside the compound as guards scrambled, not toward the hostages, but toward escape corridors along the island's service docks. That was the moment federal command had prepared for. By 4:02 a.m., the hallways were cleared and the courtyard was secured. The central structure was breached in sequence. Doors were unlocked, and voices offered reassurance. The women inside did not cheer. They did not speak. Some cried, while others stood frozen, exhausted, silent, and uncertain whether the rescue was real. But they were no longer alone. Within minutes, the main compound was fully controlled. No aircraft departed. No vessels fled. No documents were burned. And for the first time in 5 years, the island went quiet. It wasn't the quiet of fear, but the quiet of accountability. When federal teams pushed deeper into the island compound, the true scale of the operation didn't reveal itself through gunfire or confrontation. It revealed itself through a heavy, suffocating silence that lingered in every hallway and every locked room. This was a silence built over years, brick by brick, secret by secret, until no one on the outside could imagine what existed here. The first building inspected was the administrative pavilion, a structure modeled to resemble a luxury resort office. But inside, federal agents found nothing resembling hospitality. Instead, they found surveillance terminals with rows of screens showing live camera feeds covering every inch of the island: walkways, private suites, the beach perimeter, and even the common areas where the women had been held. Logs showed 24-hour monitoring with detailed notes marking each woman's behavior: withdrawn, fearful, unresponsive, or cooperative. In a side office, agents opened a locked drawer containing 268 identification cards, passports, driver's licenses, and student IDs belonging to women whose families believed they were studying abroad or attending leadership retreats. The dates under their photos told a different story: many had been missing for months. Deeper inside the pavilion, agents located a small climate-controlled vault. Inside were 42 handwritten ledgers, each tracking financial commitments from members of the private club. Pages recorded entry fees as high as $450,000 per visit. Recurring contributions were worth $8.7 million annually, and event sponsorships topped $22 million within a 3-year span. Every number confirmed one truth: this island was not a vacation retreat. It was a marketplace. Across the courtyard, a second structure revealed an even darker network. Rows of locked storage units held designer clothing, sealed boxes of cosmetics, and high-end accessories purchased in bulk. All were itemized in a digital inventory system under coded labels. They weren't gifts or amenities, they were uniforms, tools of presentation, and tools of control. Agents also located a communications hub shielded by 3 layers of encryption hardware. There, they found over 19,000 archived messages routed through offshore servers, coded itineraries, international travel manifests, and encrypted withdrawals from accounts linked to individuals in Dubai, Nairobi, London, Toronto, and Stockholm. One folder titled simply Rotation detailed travel schedules for high-profile visitors over the past 4 years. But the most shocking discovery came from beneath the central pavilion. A concealed stairwell led to an underground chamber. It wasn't a bunker or a shelter, but a planning room. Along the walls hung globally interconnected maps tracing financial flows, recruitment pipelines, and transport routes. Color-coded pins marked the locations of feeder universities, partner organizations, and offshore holding companies. It was a command center, the operational brain of an empire hidden behind academia. On a steel table in the corner, agents found a stack of glossy brochures that read Women of Tomorrow with Amina's face on the front, filled with inspirational quotes and smiling students. Next to them was a second stack of documents, lists of approved candidates ranked by appearance, language fluency, academic prestige, and vulnerability score. By the time agents finished securing the compound, the truth was unmistakable. This island wasn't improvised. It was engineered, a fully functioning, internationally funded system designed to exploit young women under the disguise of mentorship and global education. Long before agents set foot on the island, the investigation had actually begun with numbers. At first glance, the financial records from Atlantic Hills University looked ordinary: scholarships, research grants, and donor contributions. But nothing about the numbers matched the behavior of a normal university. Not the volume, not the velocity, and certainly not the destinations. Over a 5-year period, auditors identified $4.2 billion in transactions that bypassed traditional oversight channels, routed instead through special projects and restricted philanthropic allocations. These entries were too clean and too structured to be accidental. Federal analysts reconstructed the flow, which began inside the university. Hidden among routine payments were thousands of microtransfers, amounts like $35, $49, or $72. Meaningless alone, but when bundled through automated scripts, they accumulated into offshore holdings worth over $900 million. From there, the money split into multiple streams. One stream fed front companies in Malta, Malaysia, and Mauritius. Another vanished into charitable organizations with no websites or employees, just bank accounts moving millions in silence. A third stream funded luxury travel routes used to transport students overseas, all charged to academic exchange budgets. Investigators discovered that Dr. Amina Hassan Warsame personally approved more than 7,400 financial authorizations through internal review systems. The pattern was chilling. Travel budgets ballooned without explanation, and consulting invoices appeared from global partners whose names never matched any verified entity. The clearest red flag was the offshore consolidation. In one Cayman Islands account, agents traced $412 million originating from university departments. A second account in the British Virgin Islands held $287 million, and a third in Dubai showed $166 million labeled under Women's Empowerment Initiatives. None of these funds ever benefited a single student. By comparing timestamps, investigators realized the movement of money aligned precisely with recruitment phases. Withdrawals increased during academic midterms when vulnerable students felt the most pressure. The money trail didn't just finance the operation, it controlled it. When agents finally gained access to the hidden ledger, they found a ranking of benefactors across 17 countries, each tied to recurring contributions averaging $850,000 per quarter. Amina was the face of a global portfolio, a network of financiers and power brokers who funded the pipeline and consumed its services. Every transaction was a brick, every offshore account was a pillar, and every coded payment was a footstep toward the island. By dawn on January 3, the fortress built on silence finally cracked as agents escorted the rescued women to safety. At 6:45 a.m., extraction teams escorted Dr. Amina Hassan Warsame from the underground planning room. Her expression was calm, almost detached. She did not struggle. She simply asked, "Who talked?" The agents didn't need to answer, the evidence had already spoken. The moment her arrest was confirmed, operations unfolded across the country. At 7:22 a.m., a coordinated sweep began across 11 U.S. cities. Federal teams arrested 31 individuals tied to Amina's consortium, financiers, faculty collaborators, and offshore brokers. In Los Angeles, 2 businessmen were detained during breakfast. In Seattle, a tech investor was taken into custody on a private jet. In Chicago, agents raided a luxury penthouse containing encrypted ledgers documenting payouts exceeding $64 million. International partners acted in parallel, freezing 114 accounts in London, Stockholm, Nairobi, and Abu Dhabi. The investigation revealed the most disturbing truth: the system thrived because it was built inside institutions people trusted. Amina had weaponized respectability with surgical precision. She hosted conferences on empowerment while channeling millions to offshore havens. She led panels on equity while selecting students based on debt ratios and psychological profiles. Her power came from the illusion that she was one of the good ones. By 10:12 a.m., when Amina was escorted into a federal transport helicopter, the compound stood empty. The fog had lifted, and sunlight hit the concrete walls for the first time without shadows. Her fall was a reckoning for her and for the world that unknowingly empowered her. In the end, this case was about the long-term consequences of allowing corruption to grow inside institutions meant to protect young people. The damage will echo for years and the trust broken, but from that darkness came a renewed commitment to justice. Federal agencies are now tracing every financial corridor and every collaborator who believed they could operate in silence. Safeguards are being strengthened, and new protections for students are being advanced so that no program can ever again be used as a gateway to exploitation. What failed here must now become a lesson for every institution. The strength of the United States lies in the people who refuse to turn away. The men and women of the FBI, DHS, DA, and Coast Guard acted with honor and unwavering resolve. Their work was driven by duty and the belief that every life is worth defending. This operation stands as a testament to American commitment to justice and the principle that no one stands above the law. The road ahead will involve trials and policy reforms, but the greatest victory belongs to those who were rescued. If you believe these investigations must continue and that truth must be exposed, please like this video, comment "Justice for Students," and share this story. Your engagement ensures that stories like this are not buried, but remembered, confronted, and stopped. Our message to the drug traffickers is: get the hell out of